Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into my first foray into woodworking. I guess it's important to state at the top of this video that I don't have a clue what I'm doing really. So don't do as I do, and perhaps consult some proper training before using things like power tools. If you have any tips regarding safety or anything else, please comment below, but please be gentle. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going off the cuff here. Just know that no one got hurt. I did wear eye protection, my eyes are still there, I'm still alive, and the workbench still works and it works great. So, let's get into how I constructed my first workbench. So, with this in mind, I'll walk you through the steps I took while making this workbench. To get the materials, I went with my friend to Piazza Beccaria here in Florence and bought all the wood I needed. We filled his girlfriend's tiny Fiat Punto with 2x4s and MDF sheets. And with the trunk open and the wood tied together with tape and bungee cords, we drove through the city on what felt like a daring adventure with a high risk of death to us, or to someone else. High risk, high reward, they say, and in this case I think I have to agree. I started out by laying out all the wood and measuring all my cuts. This is all happening a few days before school started in late September 2018. I'm not wearing shorts in March, don't worry, even though I always could during the day. The days are getting very nice around these parts. A quick trip throughout the studio to the lab. We call it the lab. Usually we build armatures and store building materials here. Plus our big sink that we wash our silicone skins is in here. I cut all the pieces of wood to length with my circular saw. I know a circular saw maybe isn't the best or right tool for a job like this, but a circular saw is what I have, and so I'm making do with what I have. I do dream of us, the school that is, having a fully fledged wood shop in the school. I think that would be pretty awesome, but there's probably a lot of safety concerns that comes along with something like that. I don't know. To get fairly square cuts, or as square as I'm capable of, I used a 90-degree angle and I clamped it to the piece of wood to hold it in place, which seemed to be the safest option considering I don't really know what I'm doing. Once all the wood was cut, I laid it all out on the floor in one of the students' studio. The students' use are bigger than my personal studio, and again, there was no students in there. The pattern I'm following for this workbench I learned or got from watching a YouTube channel called I Like to Make Stuff, which is a great channel for people who like to make stuff. I just followed the way they laid out the wood, and I didn't use their measurements, and I skipped. They had a drawer that they installed in the top lid, and I skipped that part. My table is likely to have stuff on top of the lid, and so a drawer in the lid didn't seem like such a good idea. And it makes the build a lot simpler as well. First off, I screwed together the bottom part of the frame, and then the top part. I pre-drilled holes for the screws because the screws are at the end of the wood and I don't want the wood to crack or split on me. I can't remember what screws I used, just probably some regular normal wood screws I guess, of decent length. I mean, as you can see, this is pretty straightforward. I think anybody can do this, as long as you have a few tricks up your sleeve like pre-drilling holes and stuff like that. and you do the cuts really nicely, which I didn't do, which did lead to some issues down the line, which we'll see. With the top and bottom part made, I connected them by adding vertical boards. And again, all the boards here are 2x4s for those wondering. And there was some back and forth here because my boards weren't straight. My cuts weren't 90 degrees or my measurements weren't all 100% the same, which turned out to be a bit of a mess, to say the least. This, I think, is a good time to mention Patreon. If you are interested in learning sculpture from me personally and get feedback on your work either on email or via video chat, my Patreon page is the place for you. You'll get in-depth feedback on techniques and how you can apply them to your own work. Anything sculpture related goes. We can talk about armatures, supplies, mold making, anything you need help with in your sculpting endeavors. You'll also get 25% off on my web store plus accumulated credits equal to the amounts you pledge that can be used for further discounts. So check it out, there's a link in the description below. So I ended up having to saw off a little bit of the end of one of the boards, which wasn't a big deal, except I had to use a handsaw and it was hot as hell in the studio. They don't turn the AC on until the students show up, so. And this was still September, which is a very, very warm month here in Florence. With all that sorted, it came time to connect the top to the bottom. And even though I clearly forgot to film it, at least with my semi-decent camera, I did remember that I have to install the MDF board to the bottom piece before attaching the top to the bottom. This MDF board will serve as a shelf at the bottom of the table to store molds and material whatever I need to store really. Otherwise it's wasted space. And if I forgot this, it would mean trouble and I would have to backtrack. But I remembered, so yay for me. I had planned doing this workbench for ages and thought things through quite thoroughly, or planned them, or at least so I thought. Actually, for the most part, everything was fine, but it was a good idea to test the height of the table before committing to anything. I'd already thought about it, but I did run some tests here and came up with some different answers than what I had thought. So as you can see, I put the table up on some boards to see how tall it would be. And this was all a bit of guesswork. So far, I'm fairly pleased with the height of the table, and it's easy enough if I want to lower it by removing the pieces of wood that support the casters, or adding pieces of wood to raise the height. The small wooden pieces are kind of like bases for the casters. Casters are wheels, by the way, for those who don't know. To increase the height of the table to where I want it and give the casters a stable base to attach to. I ended up going with 6 casters because the table is quite long, and so I was nervous about it flexing in the middle, and I figured 6 wheels would be better than 4, and for some reason we don't have any big hardware stores in the city of Florence. You have to go outside of Florence, and I don't own a car, so I could only find casters that could take about 80 kilos. I couldn't find anyone that could take as many kilos as I would have liked to have. So 6 casters that each take around 80 kilos or so means the table can carry around 480 kilos, or around 1,000 pounds, which for now has been more than enough, and I think it will continue to be more than enough. For the immediate future at least. And it's easy enough to add a couple of casters if I want to. With all the casters in place, I turned the table over, and all the casters touched down on the floor and they all rolled, which I was kind of amazed by. It didn't seem like that would work out for some reason, but it did. I thought there would be some sort of twisting or something like that happening, bending, whatever it's called in wood. But that wasn't the case, and they all touched down. The last piece, the piece de resistance, is the MDF tabletop. And maybe in the future I'll replace this MDF tabletop with something a bit better, or attach a thin layer of something waterproof on top, like laminated board or something like that. Anyways, for now, however, the workbench works fine and is finished, and I'm very happy about it, clearly. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I encourage you to check out my Patreon page. I give feedback and critiques on people's work, and we talk about whatever you need help with in your sculpting endeavors. So check it out, the link is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for a new video next Thursday. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and share with your friends and family. It helps me out a lot. Thank you for watching, stay creative, and I hope to see you in the next one.